You're listening to Mid-Morning Matters on MarlowFM 97.5.
I'm joined in the MarlowFM studio now by Kevin Wallace from the EVO Triathlon Club. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Chris, and thanks for inviting us along.
Is it the first time you've been to MarlowFM?
It's the first time here, yes, and enjoying the surroundings down at Longridge.
Well, at least it's nice and warm today anyway.
It is, although I'm still in my shorts.
Of course. So I'm sure most people listening have some knowledge of what triathlon is and what the triathlon sport is and the sports that go together. But people who don't know that, let's go back to first principles. What is triathlon and how has it grown over the years?
Well, triathlon is a combination of three sports put together, commonly known as multi-sport. We have swimming, cycling and running, and it's generally done in that order. And it started off with some crazy Marines giving themselves a challenge, and which was a very long swim, a very hard bike ride, and a marathon at the end of it to make a really, really tough challenge to, separate the tough guys from the less tough guys.
And these events are done one after the other straight away? Straight
after each other, yeah, no rest. Obviously, when it became a sport properly, then people tried to sort of determine actual lengths and things where they gave them distances and to make it more achievable for mere mortals that can do a swim, a bike and a run, and it's pretty good fun, and basically it's a challenge one way or the other, but it's a very achievable challenge, and it's the sport we know and love today.
So in terms of doing the three sports back to back, how about time to get changed in between each sport? Or does that form part of your overall time?
Yeah, that forms part of the actual race time. A lot of people like to time themselves in what's called transition, which is from one sport to the next, and it's a case where sometimes on the shorter distance races where you can save some time or gain some time on your opponents, and you can sort of win or lose races in there. So it's a very important aspect, and something when you're training you tend to forget. You only tend to do it on on race day, unless you get a coach or you get advised a little bit to make yourself a bit more slicker in that transition area.
So the transition, presumably that there's, with the three sports, there'll be two transition periods, won't there? The first one will be transitioning from swimming into cycling, and the second one is from cycling into running.
Yeah, that's correct. And typically we would have a wetsuit on because we don't live in the warmest of climates, so that gives us a bit of protection from the thermal aspect of the water. So getting a wetsuit off in super quick time is fairly difficult, and then you have to get changed to go cycling. So you're literally coming from being immersed in water to being ready to cycle a bike, and then that includes helmets, glasses if you need them, special cycle shoes if you're wearing those sort of things as well. So it's a complete change.
Right, so how long does it take? Obviously, if you're a better athlete, you can swim quicker and you can run quicker and you can cycle quicker. But presumably there is a minimum time it takes to get changed from one in transition, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking the sport seriously, you should be in and out in 30 or 40 seconds.
Take your wetsuit off, put
off as well. Yeah,
put a cycle helmet on, glasses on, change shoes, all in 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah, that's it. If you're one of the pros, you have a regime and you have a format for doing that. A lot of the guys, as they're exiting the water, will partly take off their wetsuits, and so all they've got to do is whip their legs off when they get to the transition area. The shoes have developed over the years, and we have like Velcro, quick release or quick fastening shoes, and we wear a suit underneath our wetsuit, which can be worn for running and cycling as well. So that really, really minimises the time taken to get from one discipline to the next.
Right. We've just got a question come in by text. I can't see the name of the person, but if your mobile phone number ends in 374, this is from you. And the question is, what are the best local triathlon races for newcomers?
Right, there's quite a few. We're really, really lucky here in the Thames Valley. We have Dorney Lake, which is literally on our doorstep. And there are a number of companies that do races down there. There's a local company called F3 Events, which put on loads and loads of races in Marlow and at Dorney Lake. But there's another company called Human Race, which do a lot of events down at Dorney Lake as well. So they're probably the best ones to go for. They do everything from women's only races, children's races, and obviously right through to Olympic distances down there. And it's a fab venue to do your racing because it's closed roads, very, very safe, and very spectator friendly as well.
Right, I hope that answers your question. Well, maybe I can just take that one stage further. Is there anywhere online, maybe, a sort of central listing of all triathlon events, maybe sorted by region? So for the person who's just got in touch, rather than contacting different companies, can they just go to one website that says, here are all the events taking place, say, in South East England or whatever?
Obviously, the internet's a great tool for doing that. There are a number of websites that do it. You can go to British Triathlon and look at the events by region. However, not everyone subscribes to that. There's a number of websites you can just go to. If you put triathlon races in whatever area, you will get multiple hits on what's available. I would say the internet is probably the best tool.
You're listening to MarlowFM 97.5. My guest this morning is Kevin Wallace, the chairman and coach at EVO Triathlon Club. Kevin, we just had a phone call. No, we had an email in from Erica in Bourne End, and Erica's asked, do triathlons always take place, obviously the swimming element, always take place in lakes and open water, or are they sometimes in swimming pools?
They depend on the distances generally. Obviously, the shorter distances can be done in a swimming pool. We use a Lido as well down in Wickham Rye. They're often in the sea as well, so it can be anything. I would say generally it's down to the distance that you're swimming and the number of participants. Generally, it's a lake in this country. We tend to have some of the bigger, sort of the big Ironman branded events tend to be in sea swims to make it a little bit more difficult. But a lot of the beginner races are in swimming pools or Lidos and things like that. So I wouldn't be too scared about the fact that you've got to swim in a lake. So you can look at some of these events and see what the swim section is. And my first swim was in a hotel swimming pool, which was about 18 metres long. So by the time I pushed off the wall, I was at the other end. So the actual swimming element was very, very minimal. So for me, that was a great introduction to it.
Right, you mentioned the word Ironman there, which is something I want to come back to in a second. But just going back to Erica's question, presumably if it's in a swimming pool, then you're not wearing a wetsuit. Presumably you're just wearing normal swimsuit.
That's right. Although when we do our training down at the Lido, the outside air temperature is quite chilly, as you can imagine at the moment. Although the water temperature is fairly warm, so that does have an impact on your body if you're in there for a long time. But we do have some swims where you can wear a wetsuit in like an outdoor pool Lido, but you don't need it in general swimming pools. And a lot of the guys will swim in just normal swimming costumes and whip their cycling gear straight over the top of that. So
right.
It's not overly technical if you don't want it to be.
That'll save some time in transition.
Absolutely.
Sure. But of course that saves time for everybody, so it doesn't really help.
Indeed. Yeah, it's when you've put a wetsuit on and the guy next to you hasn't, and he's 3 or 4 minutes ahead of you. So taking a wetsuit off in my early days used to take me 4 or 5 minutes. It used to take me 20 minutes getting the thing on. 4 or 5 minutes getting off was actually felt quite quick, but I've got that down to about 5-6 seconds now, so that's not too bad.
But the time taken to put it on is not part of your race?
No, fortunately. If they did the race in reverse, I would probably definitely come last, I reckon, on that one.
So presumably people who are new to triathlon, they can start off with shorter distances. Not all triathlon races are over the same lengths, are they?
No, that's right. And, most people look at what is achievable to them. It's still a challenge. A lot of people, when I got into triathlon a number of years ago, couldn't swim. So the first thing was, well, we need to learn to swim. So I know I can ride a bike from when I was at school, and I know I can run. Okay, what's the shortest distance? And that's what I looked at when I first did my sort of choice of triathlon, and it was a relatively short distance in comparison to the other ones that are available. It was 400 metres, so it wasn't too bad. Considering I couldn't do a single length in the pool, 400 metre was definitely a challenge for me still. So, but there are smaller ones. Some people only do 200 metre races just to get literally, excuse the pun, dip your toe in and go from there. So they range from like 200 to 400 metres right up to sort of 4 kilometres. So the varying distances are there for your choosing.
So presumably if you choose one with a shorter distance swim, does that also have a shorter distance bike ride and a shorter distance run as well?
Generally, yes, although there are some sort of changes coming into the multisport field at the moment where people are choosing a short swim because they don't like the swim, and there might be a massive bike section and then an average run section. But generally, the distances are sort of comparable. So if you have a short swim, you'll have a relatively short bike and then a relatively short run on the smaller distance races, which they tend to be called super sprints. If you take them really seriously, they're really hard work still. I always use the opinion that I want to finish it rather than I'm not going to win the thing, and I can be a bit more leisurely. But if you're pushing yourself over a short distance, sometimes you're out of breath for the whole race. So, right. It's not necessarily easier if you want to be very competitive.
So what are the distances in a typical super sprint? I mean the distances for the three elements together. What's the distance for the swim and bike ride and the run? Again,
it can differ, but generally it's about 400 metres for the swim, 15, 20k on a bike. Sometimes that can be down as small as 10. So not very, very big distances at all. And generally 2.5k on the run. And I have to say that you don't have to run the thing.
You can just propel.
You can just propel yourself by whatever manner to get to the end. So it is quite interesting. It's still a challenge if you're from a not very fit background, but it can also be something you can push yourself to make it, something very, very sporty.
So with 400 metres, if say a typical pool is 25 metres long, that's what, 8 lengths?
8 lengths, yeah.
So that's not huge, then, is it?
Yeah.
And then maybe 10k cycle ride, which is not that huge either at all.
No. And so if you were talking at Dorney Lake, it was a little square out of the pontoon and round and back out again, and then it'd be one lap or two around the outside of the lake, and then a little short dog leg up and back on the run. So it's very, very achievable, and most of us with a small amount of training can get ourselves over that.
Well, I'm very interested to find about your club, EVO Tri Club. But before we do that, you did mention the word Ironman. So I'm sure people have heard the word Ironman, maybe not know that's got something to do with triathlon. So how does that all fit in?
Ironman is a brand, and a very successful brand, and it was initially put out to be so tough that you had to be an Iron Man or made of steel, if you like, to be able to challenge yourself with it. The distances are quite challenging. It's a 3.8 kilometre swim, which is normally in the sea. It's a 180 kilometre bike ride. So it's 112 miles if you look at it that way. And then it's a full marathon straight after. So, and these courses tend to be very, very challenging. Each element is going to be very, very challenging. And so the company's really, really grown, and it makes various challenges, and lots of these Ironman events tend to be classed as this is the hardest one in the country, this is the hardest one in the world, and things like that. But they are very, very challenging, and some people make it a life ambition to be able to complete some of these things. So from a branding point of view, it's great, but from a challenge point of view, it can be a lifetime ambition to try and do one of these, especially if you started off at Super Sprint.
Right. Do you have to qualify to take part in one of these, or do you have to show that you've done some triathlons before at shorter distances?
No, I've known people that have literally never done a triathlon before, learnt to swim and done an Ironman, so you don't have to qualify. However, there are championships which you can enter either as a tri club or as an individual, as an age grouper, or if they do pro level stuff, there's pro races within some of the big races as well. So you can, as an individual man from the street, take part. However, if you want to take it a bit more seriously, then you might have to qualify for certain races in certain regions around the world.
So here on MarlowFM 97.5, my guest this morning is Kevin Wallace from the EVO Triathlon Club. We'll talk about that club in a second, but one or two other points I'd like to ask about is, I think early on we've mentioned that triathlon is the quickest or the fastest growing sport in the UK. Is that true? Yeah,
that's true. And I think the Olympics has really helped us at London 2012, and a couple of particular individuals, the Brownlee brothers, the people might have heard of, they won the Olympics for us and have done very well since. Really put triathlon on the map in this country, and I think it's such a new sport that people don't really associate themselves with things, and if they start seeing it on TV, it makes a massive difference. And obviously the Olympics is a biggest platform you can see.
Right, fascinating. And that's led to growth. Does that growth go across all age groups?
Yes, it has. And obviously, where before it might have been ageing people from other sports that have got into triathlon for whatever reason, the youngsters have been seeing this on TV, in the news, obviously with Jonathan and Alistair Brownlee, winning medals for us. And their parents are taking it up. So it's actually a brilliant thing from a family perspective, because the parents are doing multi-sport now, and the children can also take part in exactly the same thing. And one of the best things I love about multi-sport is you could, unlike football, play at Wembley, you can run, swim and cycle on exactly the same circuit as the people in the Olympics, as the people doing Ironman, and you're on the same level. You experience exactly the same level of terrain, the wind, the rain, the sun, the crowds and things, because we can all do it together at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of good spectator sport, isn't it? Because I've seen triathlons take place at Dorney, and because all three events, all three disciplines, if that's the right word, take place at the same location, you can actually watch activity in every direction.
It's actually fantastic. And again, I went down to Hyde Park when the Olympics were on to watch the triathlon down there, and it was free, absolutely free. So you can line the streets. Obviously, there's certain areas you might have to pay for if you want corporate hospitality, but it's one of the biggest spectator sports you can do without paying as well. So it's fantastic. And the fact you can position yourself in various locations to see your friends in the swim and then shoot over is actually, it's not dull. It's always something happening.
Right. Just an email's just come in from Mark in High Wycombe. Mark, good morning. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. You say you've been talking about children. What is the minimum age for children to participate in triathlons? Because I have 3 kids, the youngest of which is 8. That's what Mark says.
Okay, that's brilliant. It's a very good question. Kids can participate through British Triathlon rules at 8 years old. So it doesn't mean that they can't do it younger than that. We have people in our club, we have a junior club as well, that are 6 and 7. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't participate younger than 8. It's just that if you're doing a competition, generally British Triathlon rules start at 8. So you could be 7 when the race is on, but long as you're 8 by the end of that year, you can participate. But there are races out there, and there's scootathons, which are mini races.
Sorry, what on earth's a scootathon?
Scootathon is a very chaotic but fun race where the children will run for a short distance, and instead of getting on a bike, they get on a scooter, and then they scoot around a little course and some cones, and then they ditch the scooter and do a run at the end as well. So
it's definitely multi-sport.
It's definitely multi-sport. It's only two sports on that instance there, but the joy you see on these guys' faces are unbelievable, and they love it. And we've put them on as a club for juniors, and I don't know if they like the idea of the medal at the end, or sometimes there's a bit of candy or something. But it's they love it, and they really cherish this medal. It's a great experience. Although it's over and done within like 3 minutes flat, but it's good fun.
Well done. And Mark, thanks very much for your question. So I'm here with Kevin Wallace. We've talked about triathlon in general. Kevin, let's tell me a little bit about the club that you're the chairman and the coach for, which is EVO Triathlon Club. How long's that been around? How many members? And where's it based?
Cool, thank you. It's a community club, so we like to get people from the community involved in some sort of activity. This is how it started around 10 years ago. In fact, it's our 10-year anniversary in April of next year. So it's been around a while. It started off as something to get me fit again after quite a horrendous knee injury, and I was told I couldn't run. And I did some exercise on the static bike, and then did some stuff in the pool. And it sort of came around from not wanting to do any training on my own and to try and get my leg fit again. And then through that non-impact of doing the training, I realised that my leg got a lot better, and I decided, stupidly, I thought at the time, I'll do a one-off triathlon. And then
I'm beginning to suspect there's no such thing as doing a one-off triathlon.
I'll do one to tick it off the box, and it never stopped after that. So it was very, very good fun.
Right. And the club now has roughly how many members?
We're over 270 members.
Wow.
Which is fantastic.
And is that purely locally, or is that nationally?
No, we've got people that are dotted all over the place, but generally we're local. So we're Marlow, Wickham, Windsor, Maidenhead, sort of Ascot. We've got 2 hubs, a Windsor hub and a Marlow Wickham hub. Everything is sort of joined, if you like, where people interact with both sets of sort of locations. But we've got people that have been in our area, because Windsor is a very transient place. We have a lot of people that tend to move on. We've got a lot of military connections and RAF connections. So when those people move on to other bases, they tend to want to still represent the EVO Tri Club. And so we have those people dotted around the country. We've got people in France, Spain, the remote parts of Lanzarote and America and sort of Australia as well. So it's generally a local club, but we have got a few associate members dotted around.
Explain to me what the benefits are of joining a triathlon club such as EVO Tri Club. I mean, I can go and do those sports on my own, and I could look at the websites and find out where the events are and sign up to them. But what are the benefits of joining a club?
I think most people start off thinking they might be a bit intimidated coming to a club. So you would tend to do a lot of these things on your own. But what you don't get is experience and the hand-down stuff. I know the internet's a great tool, but, finding out first-hand from somebody else that's done an event and things like that, you get a lot of camaraderie, you get a lot of backup, you get a lot of support. For me, when I started, there wasn't anything like that. We just had like 3 or 4 of us that I managed to club together to do things. And one was a great biker, one was a swimmer, and we had 2 of the guys that are runners, or girls they were. And so all of us had a little bit of knowledge on a certain aspect of sport. And once you bring that together and then you multiply that by, a lot of people with great experience, your knowledge and your ability really takes off very, very quickly. From a club point of view, having that support in place, whether you need it or want to take that is entirely up to you. But the fact you've got friends that are very like-minded doing the very, very same sport makes it very much more enjoyable.
Yeah. Do you have things like club nights where you get together at the same lake or the same pool or the same running track? That's
right. I mean, we have a very, very comprehensive programme in EVO, and I think it's probably one of the best ones I've seen in sort of any club. It's come from a social aspect, I'd say. I think people love to do things and interact with other people. So we have run nights, we have swim nights, we have nights where they go out and let their hair down on the town as well, and it sort of makes a great big family. And most people call us a family within that's within the club. But I think the support network there is fantastic, and if you're training with other people and you need that support, you've got it. A bit like you would in a family. If you need a bit of help with something, then you're going to get that from the people within the club.
And how about club trips to either specifically to big events like Ironman, or maybe you have club training weeks together?
Yeah, we've been doing training camps abroad for a number of years. We do weekends. When we get to an event, it's amazing when you get there and there's other club people around you. It certainly puts us on the map where we've got a lot of athletes with our tri kit on, so people recognise us, and you get a lot of support from the people that don't even know you. So when we got a number of people, we might do recce's on. For example, we did a very big recce down at Ironman Weymouth, and we had about 30 people come and do that, and it was a fantastic day. We all did the trip. We had tea and cake on a couple of the parts on the bike ride. So there's a real social aspect with it. When it come to the race time, we all knew the routes. We had the vantage points sorted out for our supporters, and we had a great weekend down there. And it's really, really good when you got the whole family together, as in the athlete family. And it's very, very good as a spectator sport, as we said. So it's really, really inclusive.
And we were talking about ages earlier on when we had the question. Let's look at the other end of the question about ages. Mark was asking about 8-year-olds and so on. How old can you be to start triathlon, and how old is your oldest member in the club?
You can be as young as you want, like we just said, but if you're racing, it tends to be 8 years old to start doing your races. We've got members of in their 70s that are still participating. We go to some races and we know people are in their sort of 95s and things like that doing races. So there really isn't an excuse when to start this. One of the guys I was chatting to in transition last year, he started when he was 70. So he started his triathlon career at 70. So you're never too old to start this. And I've got to say that it's a real level playing field. No matter how old you are, you can be very good at a certain distance for your age. So you can win medals and win elements of a race at your age group. So that's really, really good fun as well.
That's indeed great fun. So what do you have a website that people can look at if they want to find out more about EVO Tri Club?
Yes, of course. We're at www.evotri.co.uk. If you type in EVO Triathlon on Google, you will find us probably at the top there somewhere, or Tri Club Marlow, Tri Club Windsor, or something like that. You'll see us there as well. But it's a great club, and we got a junior section, which is like 70 kids big so far.
Wow.
And
what ages does the junior section go up to?
They tend to go up to 16, and then we put the 16-year-olds tend to be fitter than most of us. So we put them in the adults group, and they sort of thrive really, really well. We've got a great amount of coaches that sort of bring them from a very powerful, enthusiastic young person into like a proper athlete as well. So it's a real good transition in that respect as well.
So my guest today, Kevin Wallace from EVO Tri Club. Just a couple of minutes left, Kev. Tell me what you're doing with the schools here in Marlow.
We are introducing triathlon to a number of the schools around here and in Windsor as well. So we offer triathlon coaching for anyone that's interested in it, and it sort of works as a bit of an after-school club. But we're trying to teach disciplines of swimming, cycling, and running to the children of Marlow. So we're working with Holy Trinity, Burford, and Spinfield here in Marlow, which is really, really cool. And the kids absolutely love it because it's not just one sport. I love it because it's different and it's individual yet part of a team. And what we found, the feedback the children have told us is they might not be very good at rugby or football, but multi-sport has really ticked a number of boxes for them because it's fun. And if they weren't great at swimming, they might be very good on the bike and the run.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic to build their confidence.
I suppose if they weren't very good at rugby or football, then the chances are they might be good at either running or cycling or swimming, and then you can emphasise that part of the multi-sport.
Exactly. And what we found is the guys that are still doing the rugby and the rowing and stuff like that, the multi-sport, the triathlon has really helped them in getting conditioned for that sport as well. So we're really, really lucky.
That's brilliant. Kevin, thanks for coming into Marlow FM today. It's been great having you as my guest. Quickly and finally, can you tell me once again what is the website if people want to find out more about your own club?
Yes, thank you. It's www.evotri.co.uk, and thanks for having me involved.
That's great. evotri.co.uk. And can they also find out about you on Facebook and other platforms?
They can, yes. We've got social media access as well through Facebook. So, we look forward to hearing from you.
You've got social media coming out your ears.
Indeed.
So that's Kevin Wallace, who's the chairman and coach of EVO Tri Club, a locally based club for anybody interested in triathlon.
You're listening to Mid Morning Matters on Marlow FM 97.5.